So today I present to you Memento. So Memento is a combo heavy deck based around two of your boss monster, which is Combine Creation and also your Creation King. The deck is extremely complicated and hard, and I would say it's actually on par with Ritual Beast. For the main deck for this deck, I run one copy of Maze, one copy of Goblin. I prefer one Goblin because if you run two Goblin with the both of the quick play spell, usually you will end up in Brick. And also since Memento activates its effect and it does not target itself to destroy, so it will become a little bit problematic in terms of searchability. So for example, if you activate your Maze effect to pop itself, and then if your opponent imperm you, then you chain to summon your quick play to summon your Memento land Goblin from the deck, then it will just be wasted. So that's why I prefer not to run the Goblin package or any of the quick play spell. If you want to do much more detail, you can refer to Master Duel Meta website. I post my master deck list when I'm using this deck. So I'm running double copy of Maxi, one copy of Gathic, triple copy of Ash. I'm running triple copy of Anguish for your Wonka combo, one copy of Sleepy for your Fusion Summon, triple copy of Darkblade, triple copy of Wallace, triple copy of Tatsuno Toshigo, one copy Akihiron for your OTK and also recyclability of this card. And also I'm running one Memento Land Horn Dragon, one Combine Creation for your boss monster, one Memento Clan, the field spell, since it's able to reborn your monster and also recycle your spell. I'm running triple super polymerization because I think this is the best going second board breaker in this game for now, since Blue Eyes is meta with the Primite cards. I'm running double Call by the Grave, one Cross-Out Designator, triple Memento Land Bone Party, triple Memento Land Fusion, triple Impermanent. For the extra deck, I'm running one Mud Dragon of the Swamp, one Garura, one Twin Dragon, one Drago Steples, and you can fuse from the graveyard using your Memento Land Fusion, one Mysteron the Dragon Crown. This one is target for your Super Poly, mostly for either your Memento Land Fusion since you don't have any other target, or most of the time you're gonna use it for Super Poly target. I'm running one Guardian Chimera, double Memento Clan Tekutlika Creation King. So this one you can run two, but sometimes I do see run three, but most of the time you're gonna run two because it's recyclable. So that's why you only run two. You want to run one Typhon, one IP, one Verte, one Elf, one Donna Dagger of the For Hire, one Little Knight, and one Apollousa. I don't want to go into too much detail for this deck. I think you watch the replay. If you have any question, feel free to comment in the down below.